Hey, this is Nisha Raghavan, your HR buddy, and I'm here at Louisiana Shrimp Conference 2013 with a very wonderful person, Doug Show. Well, I met him on social media. I followed him his blog and then Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and this is the day that I'm meeting him in real life. So I'm pretty excited, and actually, I missed Doug Show's a session on building social HR leadership. So that's why we are here to talk about building social HR leadership with Doug and then introduce Doug Show to you all guys. So, Doug, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks, Nisha. Hi, it's a real pleasure to meet you and so many other interesting, fun people here in Louisiana. It's my first time in the state. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm just kind of coming back down to earth. I got a really interesting surprise handed to me this morning when Dwayne and Robin asked me to take the stage and sing for everybody here in the morning session, which was a big surprise for me. I'm not sure I'd have turned up if I'd known it was going to happen, but I think judging from the reaction from people, it went well. So yeah, I'm buzzing right now, and my heart rate's just about returning to its kind of normal state. So I'm good, thanks.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. Well, talking about Doug is actually a guitarist, a singer, a global HR professional. So, Doug, can you please introduce yourself so that my audience can know a little bit more about you?
Sure. Well, like you say, my name's Doug Shaw. You can catch up with me on most of the social media channels. I enjoy mixing it up on Facebook, Twitter. I have an Instagram channel that I use to kind of put a visual context around the things that interest me. I'm fascinated about how people work together and how they kind of create opportunities to collaborate and co-create things. So I like to use these tools in many different ways to hopefully kind of unlock some of what's in my head and how I'm thinking and feeling about things. I think sharing those kind of elements that are passionate to us all as individuals are a really interesting way of connecting, and so that's why I like to play around with these tools. But then you get the opportunity, or I get the opportunity, to come somewhere like here and catch up with everybody in real life, and that really takes the thing to a whole nother level. So I'm interested in what makes people tick and how we can kind of get on better, collaborate and co-create things more inventively, more creatively, if you like.
Cool. Well, actually, I got a little nugget from you about collaboration and then inspiration. So let's talk a little bit about social HR, how HR should use social media in terms of becoming a social HR leader.
Sure. Well, I think there's a huge opportunity for people who work in human resources to think of themselves as, if you like, the oil in the machine of the organisation. So how can they make the whole thing spin and whiz and click along much better than it currently does? And I think that part of that relies on this group of people broadening their connections across the whole business. I mean, they're ideally positioned to do this. They have day-to-day interactions with loads of other people throughout the company, and I think to that extent, if they were able to adopt a more social way of working, I think they can begin to prove even more value to the organisation where they're working and drive just a better way of doing things, really, a smarter, more effective way of doing things, and perhaps equally importantly, a more enjoyable way of doing things. I don't see anything wrong with coming to a great place to work and having fun doing what I'm doing, and I think that that's an underappreciated area that HR could play a much more powerful role in, if you like.
And then you talked about using social tools to enhance and rehumanize work. Well, that's a great term, rehumanize work, but how do we do that?
Well, it's a very good question. And I shamelessly stole the concept from Jamie Notter and Maddie Grant, who have written a really interesting book called Humanize. And it's a fantastic volume to dip in and out of, because it gives you all kinds of great food for thought around mixing up the technological with the cultural. And I think the challenge for businesses is actually a lot of these tools are really accessible. They're really easy to get hold of. You know, they're not a big cost to the business. But very often what I find, and certainly what Jamie and Maddie found as they were researching and writing their book, is that the culture in the workplace is often lagging the potential for the technology. So I think it's really important to look at the tools and look at the way you want to interact with your colleagues, with your customers, with all of your different stakeholders, and be really mindful of, you know, what goes on in the organisation now. What does our behaviour look like? How does it match up? How will it stack up when we look to become a more transparent, open organisation? You know, those kind of challenges I think are really fascinating, and I think again this is a huge opportunity for HR to go in and ask some really provocative questions of the rest of the leadership team. You know, how do we feel about openness? How do we feel about transparency? Are we in a situation where we can simplify our processes and procedures to the extent that when we go live, you know, when we open the doors to the rest of the world, we're in a situation to be agile, responsive, and that actually our behaviour matches the kind of values that we want to be espousing publicly. So I think that's a really interesting place to be right now.
Well, that's a very good insight. Well, talking about global HR, because you have been traveling all around the world for a longer period of time. You have worked in UK, and then you have been coming for the speaking engagements for US and all over the States. So what are some work culture aspects that you have noticed which is different from UK and then to United States?
Okay. Interesting question. I do find people over here in America to be incredibly welcoming. And that's not to say that's not the case in the UK, but it seems that maybe it's because, you know, I've already interacted with a lot of these people online, and actually there is a lot of genuine excitement when you meet people that you've come to know and respect through the dialogue you've had with them, albeit, you know, over a considerable distance. So there's a certain amount of excitement that's kind of built into that journey and that expectation. And certainly I found that here in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, where we are right now. I've also found it very evident in Chicago, where I was just a couple of weeks back, and New York and Ohio last year. And I think that I really like the way that people are willing to kind of run with ideas. So some of the work that I've been doing actually involves getting into some of the detail of the kind of things that I get asked to speak about, and actually working with companies to see, so how does this stuff pan out? How does it play out? How does it actually work? And I think that there's a lot of excitement created around that kind of opportunity, particularly once people recognise that actually this is all about collaboration and co-creation. This isn't about being told what to do. It's about figuring out what the possibilities are, what the challenges are, and trying to work together to solve them. And again, I suppose the thing is that actually I see evidence of that on both sides of the Atlantic, if you like. And I think a lot of that's got to do with trying to deliver what motivates me in a manner that's very simple for people to pick up and run with. So I try to be an ambassador, if you like. That sounds a very grand title, for kind of simplicity, if you like. So most of the ways that I try to work are as uncomplicated as possible, so that people can quickly pick them up and realise that actually, hey, the only thing that's stopping us doing this is us. So let's make that change and get on with it. And that, again, frankly, I see in evidence on both sides of the water. I haven't had a chance to go and do much work in other parts of the world beyond Europe and the US, but I'm really keen to try and do a couple of things in Asia and perhaps out in India, and just get a sense of how things are similar, how things are different. So maybe we could talk again in another few months' time, and if I've managed to achieve that by then, I'll probably have a richer answer for you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that, actually. Well, you are an ambassador, and then it's an awesome opportunity for me to see you sing a song and then playing guitar at the same point of time. So being an artist, how do you use your skills of an artist in terms of, to connect with others, and how does that help in your HR profession?
That's a great question. I think that we're all motivated and energized by different things, and I think that a lot of what we do that really drives and excites us is actually happens outside the workplace, but I think there are ways that we can actually bring it into the workplace and make work a much more diverse and exciting place to be. So yes, I'm interested in music, and hopefully I demonstrated that to some extent today. And actually, I think that the opportunity to sing together is potentially quite a powerful thing. And I haven't really done much with this yet, but it's something that I'm really keen to try and explore in and around the workplace, and just see what kind of bonds we can create with colleagues by exposing them to different ways of learning and different ways of participating with each other. The other thing that I'm really interested in is the visual arts as well, and so I'm an extremely amateur painter, but I like to paint because I think, again, what that helps me do is get my brain into a different space, and I find it really helpful for doing things like problem solving or brainstorming. If I'm kind of bumping up against the edge of my cognitive ability, which is pretty modest, then I find that going to a different place and approaching something maybe from a visual perspective or a musical perspective actually gives me more room to think and more time to think. And I'm finding that as I use more visual and artistic methods with the people I work with, then they too are able to find different ways of getting to the objective that they hadn't necessarily considered before. I'm a firm believer that we can all draw, we can all paint. Sure, some of us are better at it than others, but I think there's really interesting things that go on your mind when you start to use different tools in your hands. Your brain starts to go in different directions, and all sorts of interesting new ideas begin to percolate as a result. So I think it's an underexploited opportunity at the moment, and I'm really keen to be pushing a much more kind of creative angle on leadership now and in the future.
Well, that's really great to know that, the painting and then your skills of doing guitar is the way that you connect with others, and then everything put together, it's all an entire awesome story. Well, another thing that I want to ask is, how did you get started in terms of, the HR profession and then your art? So how do you manage all this?
Very badly, probably. I think that's a really that's a really interesting question. It's a tough challenge, and I probably don't. There are times when I should probably pay more attention to fewer things. I'm obsessively curious. I'm fascinated by possibilities and opportunities, and so I do find that there are times when I get perhaps stretched in too many different directions. So a discipline for myself this year is I'm trying to finish more stuff, and that might mean make sure I complete what I'm doing. It might mean finish as in end something. So, for example, one of the things that I've done recently is gone through my LinkedIn groups, and actually a whole load of those I'm not adding any value to, and they're not adding any value to me. They're just kind of baggage and noise that's distracting me. So I've kicked them all into touch. So I'm only following a few now. And I think the other thing I'm trying to do is be a little bit more focused. So what are the things that are really going to make a difference? And for me, some of these artistic concepts in terms of how they relate to work, I think that is a really interesting opportunity. So I'm putting a lot more effort and thought into how can I kind of bring that to the market in a useful way. And I think the other word that really I'm trying to kind of live by this year is try to make sure that I have as much fun as I possibly can. This is we're all on this planet for a really very short, blink of an eye moment, aren't we? So I think it really matters to try and find ways to enjoy what you're doing. And to that extent, that's one of the reasons why I do kind of keep on kicking over new ideas, because you never know what the next big thing is that's going to motivate you, or perhaps more importantly, what's the next small thing that's going to motivate you. And I think one of the things that really excites me is the opportunity for little changes to make big differences. And often when I'm with clients or with friends or in environments like this, one of the questions I'll be asking is, what's the next small thing? What's the least I can do today to make a positive impact? I'm not particularly interested in the next big thing, because what's the chances of me being able to make that happen? But if I can find the next small thing that I can do to help somebody just move along that path a little bit, then I think that's a very rewarding way for people to go, and it's a more straightforward thing to do too.
So what is your advice for the young HR professionals to do that next small thing that will help them to be a successful HR professional?
Okay. Well, I think there's a whole raft of small things that you could do, but I think things that make a big difference is have the courage to bring your real self to work. So the best of you is a combination of what you do in the office and what you do in other places. And I think that if you can find a way to feed your kind of outside passions into the sphere of work, then I think you'll find you become a much more valuable person to know. I think just taking the opportunity to broaden your network into other areas, and this is another place where social media can be enormously beneficial. I mean, I keep pinching myself. Here I am sitting in Louisiana. I'm just a guy from London, England. What on earth am I doing here? And if I hadn't kind of taken the time to build those kind of relationships and make those kind of connections, then it would be somebody else sitting in the chair right now. I mean, anyone can do this stuff. I'm such an ordinary kind of person. There's nothing special about me. So I think to that extent, what I would say is that you have the opportunity to kind of inspire and motivate people just by stepping out there, taking on new challenges, trying new things, and just getting out there and meeting as many new people as you can. It's huge fun, and it makes life a fascinating journey.
Well, thank you so much, Doug. It's an honor to meet you and then talking to you at this point. It's an honor to meet personally, and looking forward to meeting you soon.
Cool. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.